Are you planning a trip to the Smokies? Whether you're staying in a cabin on a mountaintop or a hotel down on the Parkway, in an RV at the KOA, or the family tent in Elkmont, whether you enjoy walking the busy streets of Gatlinburg or a quiet trail in Greenbrier, if your idea of fun is speeding down on a mountain coaster or a vista view from a mountain summit, then this podcast is for you. I'm Chuck Schmidt, and I'm the Outsider. From moonshine to pancakes, from your wedding day to a family reunion, we're here to make your visit more enjoyable, more memorable, sharing with you more of the Smokies. So if your idea of the perfect park is Dollywood or the Great Smoky Mountains themselves, we've got a lot to talk about. So let's get started. But first things first, don't feed the bears. Hello everyone, I'm Chuck Schmidt, and I am the Outsider. Welcome to episode number 8 of An Outsider's Guide to the Great Smoky Mountains. Over the last few episodes, I've been talking about the other cities in the area. I've been talking about Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, and then in episode 7, it was Cherokee and Bryson City. I'm going to broaden the scope out a little bit, and we're going to look a little bit more to the east, because right now I've covered probably where 90% of the travelers go would be in those main cities. We're going to talk about the areas now for the other 10%. On this episode, we're going to focus on Dandridge, and we're going to focus on Cosby, Tennessee. It's kind of interesting. Dandridge was founded in 1783. It was named after Martha Dandridge, Washington, the first U.S. president's wife. It's the state's second oldest town. When the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, started construction on the Douglas Dam in 1942, originally, most of the town was going to be flooded, or at least threatened to flood almost all of downtown, which was situated well below the reservoir's high water mark. The residents of the town successfully petitioned then First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, pointing out that Dandridge was the only town in the United States to be named for the wife of George Washington. They were successful in their petition, and a stone and earth dike was built to keep the rising waters from flooding the town. Now, Douglas Lake is probably the main attraction up in the area. The lake is beautiful. It's 33,000 acres, approximately 30 miles long, has 525 miles of shoreline. The lake alone, that area, attracts more than 1.7 million visitors each year. And there's a lot to do. There's boating, jet skiing, kayaks, fishing. There's quiet coves for swimming. There are rental properties right on the lake. And there's also RV parking and campsites available. There are wonderful places to have a picnic, incredible views of the dam and inspiring views of the Smokies as a backdrop. There's a beautiful scenic overlook overlooking the dam and the Smokies. It's not to be missed. One thing to keep in mind is they drain the lake in September and they refill it again in March. Because technically it's not a lake. Really, it's a storage reservoir. So the TVA lowers the water level to make room for the runoff from the winter storms. When there is a storm, the TVA holds the water back by reducing releases from the dam, and then when the rain stops, they gradually let the water out to prepare for the next storm. In the summer, when there's less risk of floods, TVA keeps lake levels higher to support recreation. In a year with normal rainfall, Douglas Lake's water level varies from 44 feet between summer to winter. Now, things to do on Douglas Lake. The most popular thing to do, obviously, is to rent a boat. And there are several different places out there where you can do that. There's the Lighthouse Point Marina. They rent pontoon boats and tubes. There's H2O Water Sports. They rent Yamaha, Bentley, Bayliner, and Glastron boats. These boats hold up to 12 people. The Tri-Toon offers more speed, maneuverability, and stability. They also have paddle boats and kayaks for great quiet paddling and fishing. And don't forget 4-person pedal boats with a sunshade. They have a 150 horsepower pontoon boats that's designed for speed and handling and great for skiing and wakeboarding. And again, that's H2O Water Sports. Swans Marina, they also rent pontoon boats and john boats. And Douglas Lake Marina, they rent pontoon boats and tubes. Now, a couple other things to do that's really unique up around the Douglas Lake area is the helicopter tours. There's the Douglas Lake View helicopter tour. This flight takes you up to about 1,500 feet in altitude. It allows you to get a superb view of the Smoky Mountains, especially towards the south. Along the route, you see areas of farmland and quilt-like patterns of pastures. You'll also get a closer look of Douglas Lake, and you get to fly right next to Douglas Dam. On most days, you're able to see the plateau off to the northwest that divides Tennessee and Kentucky. There's also the French Broad River helicopter flight. This flight takes you over the French Broad River. You'll see the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and beautiful Douglas Lake. The flight covers 8 exciting miles, upwards to about 1,200 feet above the ground, so you get a great bird's eye view of the surrounding area. The downtown area of Dandridge is a registered National Historic District. It has boutiques, antique shops, restaurants. Make sure to stop by the 1820 coach house that is now the town's visitor center. You can pick up a self-guided walking tour map of the 21 sites of historic interest downtown, as well as 17 sites that are just a short drive away. The historic district comprises Dandridge's downtown area, and significant properties in the district include the Jefferson County Courthouse. It's a Greek Revival building, built in 1845, as well as the town's 4 original taverns, Roper Tavern, Hickman Tavern, Shepherd's Inn, and Thomas Tavern, and those all still exist today. Now, the Dandridge Visitor Center, it has volunteers at the center. They're very knowledgeable and very friendly. They're very happy to share a few minutes telling you about the rich history of the town, telling you about Davy Crockett, the Revolutionary Soldier Cemetery, and there's a small free museum in the courthouse. Now, the Revolutionary War graveyard, this is a very interesting thing to walk through. Here you're going to find soldiers who fought and died in the Revolutionary War. Stones that have faded with time, but they still hold a great deal of importance in our changing history. The grounds are nicely maintained, and there's a small pamphlet that's available to describe the grounds. It's a unique place and worth a stop if you love history, dating back to the 1700s. Now, the shops at Roper Mansion, it's a beautiful mansion from 1820. Roper Mansion is part of the historic walking tour of Dandridge. There are many nicely preserved rooms in the mansion, each furnished with proper antiques or different kinds of art that are for sale. There's all kinds of kitchen equipment in the kitchen, toys in the kids' rooms, knickknacks in the living room. There's also plenty of art for sale as well. It's like stepping back into time. It's a very interesting afternoon for sure. Other attractions in the area: the Bush Bean Visitor Center and Museum. It's not quite in Dandridge, it's over in Chestnut Hill, but it's very close by. And there you can trace the values and the events that make Bush's best beans what they are today, and it's all housed in the original A.J. Bush & Company General Store, founded in 1897. See the Bush Theater, featuring a short film that includes a welcome from Jay and Duke, an overview of the Bush family history, and a glimpse of the modern methods for processing and canning beans. View a timeline of the Bush Brothers Company showing how the company changed with the times and how they reached customers, as well as the local community throughout the years. You can take a walk through a giant replica of a can of Bush beans, showing the beans' journey from the beginning to end. And the Bush's Family Cafe is known for their wonderful desserts and their very wide menu. Come enjoy some homemade dishes and southern specialties, especially their pinto bean pie. Now, one thing I was skeptical about going to Bush's Beans, the visitor center as a museum, I was thinking that really can't be all that interesting. I was wrong. It really is a fascinating place to go. It's a fun half-day trip for you and your family. And that's the Bush Beans Visitor Center and Museum in Chestnut Hill. Wolf Paws is a wolf dog sanctuary that was formed in 2013 for the purpose of rescuing unwanted and abandoned and abused wolf dogs and providing a permanent sanctuary for them in a safe and natural environment. Providing an environment where these animals can be studied by individuals or educational institutions to further understand the wolf dog, and educating the public about the specific care requirements and challenges of owning a wolf dog in an attempt to reduce the amount of wolf dogs being euthanized. Now, Wolf Paws is not open to the public, but they do offer private tours by appointment. Tours normally last about an hour to an hour and a half. The tour starts with a safety briefing and an overview of Wolf Paws, followed by an outside tour of the sanctuary, where you can observe and interact with the resident wolf dogs. You will want to dress like you're going hiking. Short or long sleeve shirts, long pants, closed-toe shoes are recommended. It can be quite muddy at times, so dress accordingly. Please keep in mind no children under the age of 10 are allowed on the tours, and certainly no pets. Wolf Paws does not charge an admission for private tours. And again, that's at Wolf Paws. If you're a bit of a thrill seeker, then Skydive East Tennessee might be what you're looking for. It's the only skydiving center in the East Tennessee area with facilities for you and your guests. They have air-conditioned and heated buildings. They have restrooms, training rooms, spectator facilities, video screens to view your video, Wi-Fi, etc. Their staff is licensed professionals, and they care about you and your safety. They have several planes and a large staff, so they're able to accommodate just your family or a group very quickly and efficiently. Here's how it works. You and your instructor will move to the edge of the door, and then it's ready, set, go. The freefall portion of the skydive is an exhilarating 45 seconds at 120 miles an hour, where you and your instructor will perform turning maneuvers, and at the appropriate altitude, your instructor will open the parachute. When your instructor opens the parachute, the freefall is over, but the adventure is not. Maybe it's the difference in the noise or the speed, but most people describe this as overwhelmingly peaceful. And it's about a 5-minute scenic parachute ride for you and your instructor, landing back to where it all began. Now, frankly, in my case, it'd be 5 minutes of absolute screaming all the way to the ground, and that's at Skydive East, Tennessee. If you're looking for something maybe a little more peaceful but still being up in the air, then What's Up Ballooning hot air balloon rides might be just what you're looking for. The balloon rides occur at dawn. It's perfect for starting your day, and because they fly at dawn, this allows you to have the flexibility to enjoy the rest of the day exploring Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge or many of the other activities in the Smoky Mountains. They have 2 balloons. They have the Lucky Charm and the Breeze to accommodate you and your group of up to 6 guests per flight. Now, the winds on the surface must be less than 5 miles an hour. Winds at 3,000 feet must be less than 20 miles an hour. No rain, fog, or inclement weather. Clouds must be 1,000 feet above the ground or higher, and no thunderstorms within 100 miles of the flight area. So you have to be a little flexible as far as scheduling these things, or at least being a little more understanding as far as the weather conditions. From the time you meet up with the pilots to the time you say goodbye is normally about 3 to 4 hours. You'll spend approximately 1 hour in the air, and this is due to the wind direction, potential landing sites. The rest of the time is spent traveling to the launch site, set up, break down to the balloon, and then traveling back to the meeting site. That's What's Up Ballooning. Now let's talk about dining in Dandridge. And of course, as always, let's start with breakfast. And if you've listened to my other episodes, you know that I do not tend to talk about the chains. I like talking about the local restaurants. Dandridge does have its fair share of the chains for breakfast. They do have Perkins, Shoney's, Waffle House, etc. But they also have Owen's Restaurant. It's a small-town family restaurant featuring home-style cooking, eggs, sausage, biscuits and gravy, pancakes. Nothing fancy, but very delicious, very clean, very reasonably priced, and that's Owen's Restaurant. Now, if you want something really unique, and this is a truly unique place to go, the Tinsley Bible Drug Store. It's an old-time drugstore with a lunch counter and a few booths. It also has an old-fashioned soda fountain experience. They have your typical breakfast menu, eggs, toast, breakfast sandwiches, oatmeal, biscuits and gravy, etc. But this is really all about the experience, and it's really, really unique. That's the Tinsley Bible Drug Store. Finally, Dandridge Brewing Company. Yes, you heard me right. The Dandridge Brewing Company has muffins and bagels. They have their muffins of the day, the bagel of the day. They have breakfast bagels that include your choice of ham and turkey, and then topped with different cheeses, Swiss, provolone, American. That's at the Dandridge Brewing Company. Now, as far as lunch goes, I'm going to send you back to those 3 that we just talked about. Owen's Restaurant. They have a cube steak, grilled chicken, catfish with hush puppies, as well as a long list of sides, and you can finish it up with banana pudding or a chocolate cake. At the Tinsley Bible Drug Store, again, a truly unique place to go, they have burgers and sandwiches, incredible milkshakes that are out of this world. Their desserts are just spectacular. You really need to go to their Facebook page to take a look at these desserts. I can't do them justice with the description on here, but it's just absolutely outstanding. That's the Tinsley Bible Drug Store. Now, the Dandridge Brewing Company, they have several different sandwiches. The Gobbler, which is a turkey sandwich. The Ooh La La, the Reuben, the Murph, which is roast beef and salami. That sounds absolutely outstanding, and that's at the Dandridge Brewing Company. Now, the Bush Family Cafe, located back at the Bush Bean Visitor Center, they have soup, salads, sandwiches, catfish, barbecue, a pretty wide menu, plus desserts. Now, try the lima bean pecan pie. I know that kind of sounds gross, but it's much better than it sounds. You won't taste the beans at all, and it is absolutely outstanding. And again, that's at the Bush Family Cafe. Finally, the Millstone Restaurant, that's at Swans Marina, right on Douglas Lake. They have soups, sandwiches, and burgers. They have a Belly Buster burger that's 2.5 pounds of beef, and with all the toppings. And this one comes with its own cardiologist. Just absolutely an enormous hamburger. That's at the Millstone Restaurant at Swans Marine, right on Douglas Lake. Now, as far as dinner in Dandridge, they have several different selections here. Taste of Dandridge, hand-cut steaks, hickory smoked barbecue. Thursday night is prime rib night. Tuesdays and Wednesdays is Mexican fiesta night. pretty extensive Mexican menu for those nights. They have a full complement of gourmet sandwiches and burgers. One thing to keep in mind, this is a bring-your-own-booze restaurant, so you've been warned. No liquor on tap there. Over at the Southern Charm Kitchen is a farm-to-table restaurant. They use local ingredients, and they make their own foods from scratch with love and care. They have their Southern Sammys, which includes sweet tea brine chicken breast sandwiches, gooey grilled cheese. The Iron Skillet Burger is just something to behold. Their steaks, they serve only prime beef, locally raised and butchered in and around the Dandridge area. Their steaks are very simply seasoned and cooked to order in an iron skillet. And they also have an iron skillet seared pork chop and sweet tea fried chicken. Just sounds outstanding. That's at the Southern Charm Kitchen. Now, Angelo's at the Point. This is a seafood place. Again, this is right on Douglas Lake. They have their seafood Diablo. It's shrimp, grouper, crab meat, spinach, onions, feta, spicy tomato sauce. They also have a fried seafood platter, Maryland crab cakes, an Italian crusted pork chops. Again, they have black Angus ribeyes, char grilled and served with mac and cheese and steamed broccoli. They also have pizzas, burgers, sandwiches, and yummy fish tacos. Finish it off with a piece of peanut butter pie, and you are in pig heaven. That's at Angelo's on the Point. Next up, Cowboys on the Water. Beautiful lakefront view overlooking the Smoky Mountains. Enjoy a meal on a two-tiered patio where you can dine inside with the same great views. They have a really broad menu from chicken, ribs, bone-in ribeyes to seafood, catfish, scallops, mahi-mahi. They have pasta dishes and burgers. They open at 4 p.m. on most days, noon on Saturdays. They have live music on Fridays and Saturdays from 6 to 9. Next up, Captain's Galley Seafood. You'll start your meal with an amazing basket of hush puppies. From there, a really extensive menu: steaks, pastas, sandwiches, po' boys, and of course a broad selection of seafood: scallops, flounder, shrimp, catfish, lobster tails. Plenty of combo platters are available to suit every taste. That's the Captain's Galley Seafood. Last but not least, El Toro Mexican Restaurant. Colorful, charming, authentic interior, Tex-Mex menu. Sure to please everybody's taste. Kind of interesting, if you go to their Facebook page and you click on the link to go to their website, it takes you to Toro lawnmowers. I don't know what they were thinking there, but that's a link they definitely have to get fixed. That's the El Toro Mexican Restaurant in Dandridge. Now, moving south a little bit, we're going to go to Cosby. Cosby is a wonderful place, and if you want to enjoy the Smoky Mountains without the crowds, and pretty much, I don't care what time of the year, not a whole lot of people head up towards this end of the park up in Cosby. There's some really interesting things to do up there. First thing up, if you're not a big hiker or anything and you want to enjoy beautiful scenic views, then don't miss the Foothills Parkway East. It runs from Tennessee 321 out to I-40, and it just has magnificent views of the Smokies. There are 3 different parking areas for you to take in some magnificent views. Highly recommend that anyone in the area, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, takes the time to drive this section of the highway. It's going to take you maybe about an hour from Cosby to I-40, but it's definitely worth the time investment. That's the Foothills Parkway East. Next up, if you want to get some real adventure out there, Smoky Mountain Adventure Tours is just what you're looking for. Smoky Mountain Adventure Tours is a guided UTV tour, but you get to drive. Yes, you're behind the wheel of the UTV. These tours provide a true off-road experience: trails, grass, dirt, mud, rocks. It's all part of the experience at Smoky Mountain Adventure Tours. Many other UTV rentals that you see running around town are strictly cruising vehicles, meaning you primarily have to stick to the open road. While that's still great fun, there is something special about going off-road and up the mountainside. And that's what you'll do at Smoky Mountain Adventure Tours. An average tour lasts about 2 to 2.5 hours. It's maybe described as the most fun you can have in 2 hours. If you're on a time crunch or you want maybe a longer experience, the folks at Smoky Mountain Adventure Tours, they can help you design a custom tour. Great flexibility over there. They also offer a twilight tour, which leaves from the Smoky Mountain Premier RV Resort about 1 hour prior to the sun going down. Absolutely beautiful. And all of that is at the Smoky Mountain Adventure Tours. Now, the next interesting thing to do over near Cosby, and it's not quite Cosby, again, this is a little bit out of town going back towards Gatlinburg, is Climbworks. Climbworks is zip lines and mountain biking. Now, Climbworks has 2 different zip lines. They have the Mountaintop Zip Line Tour, You'll soar high above the mountains on their new dual-line mountaintop zip line. You'll experience higher vantage points and longer lines than ever before. It's an epic 360 panoramic view of the Great Smoky Mountains from each platform, and you'll learn about the rich history of the Smokies while you're up there. Along the tour, you'll zip side by side on 5 dual zip lines, walk across 4 aerial bridges, rappel off one of the platforms, and enjoy a fun ATV adventure to the top of the mountain. Duration time is about 2 hours. Water is provided along the way. The level of difficulty for this zip line is considered easy to moderate. If you're looking for something a little bit lighter or a little bit easier, Treetop Zipline Tour. The Treetop Zipline Tour is a true treetop canopy tour consisting of 9 world-class zip lines, unique sky bridges, a fun ATV adventure to the top, and a fun controlled rappel at the end, making this the ultimate Smoky Mountain experience. You'll get to soar tree to tree, and you'll see why the Great Smoky Mountains is the most visited national park in the country. Duration on the Treetop Zipline Tour is about 2 to 2.5 hours. Again, water is provided along the way, and this level of difficulty is considered easy. Now, as far as mountain biking, they do offer the only true mountain biking in Gatlinburg and the only e-bike tour of the Smokies. They provide everything for you, including guided instructional first loop, so you'll need to show up ready for the adventure. Now, what is an e-bike? An e-bike is a full suspension mountain bike with an electric pedal assist that allows you to tackle any uphill with ease. Don't let the uphill slow you down. The duration is a 2-hour trail pass, and again, water is provided. Level of difficulty here is considered intermediate. This is not necessarily for novices when it comes to mountain biking on trails, so please keep that in mind. And again, that's at Climeworks. Now, other Cosby attractions. There's the Outdoors in the Smokies. Outdoors in the Smokies is an outdoor event facility and private training establishment in the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains. They offer vehicle overland trail wheeling. They offer a off-road vehicle trail use. Sorry, no ATVs. They have private off-road driving instruction available and cross-country mountain bike trails. Now, they don't rent anything there. They don't rent Jeeps. They don't rent any kind of 4x4s or anything along those lines. So you're going to have to bring your own 4x4 with you. They're also not open to the public at the gate. So anything you want to do at Outdoor in the Smokies has to be prearranged, whether it's the mountain biking, whether it's the off-road experience. They also have a shooting range out there also. So again, you have to arrange in advance to take part in the shooting range. And again, that's Outdoor in the Smokies. Now, if all of that sounds just a little too exciting for you, then you want to do something a little slower, then the Carver Orchards and Farm Market is out there. They offer jams and ciders and fresh produce. How about apple butter barbecue sauce? They offer tomatoes, dark raw honey, some fried apple pies, chilled apple cider. Try their blackberry jam that's a combination of raspberries, blackberries, and blueberries. It sounds delicious. They lay claim to 100 varieties of apples, but of course that's limited by the time of year. This is a gem of a place tucked away in the mountains. That's Carver Orchards and Farm Market. One great thing about the Cosby area and the national park is, as I said in the very beginning, this part of the park is not crowded, and it offers some great hiking experiences. One of the first ones I want to talk about is the Porter Creek Trail. It's 4 miles long. Oops, you know what? I need to stop for a second here. Difficulty rating. I talked about this on one of my previous episodes, but let me make mention of it again. When I talk about difficulty rating for a hike, 0 to 5 is considered easy. Between 5 to 10 is considered moderate. Anything over 10 would be considered a strenuous hike. So keep that in mind while I'm talking about these. Okay, going back. First up, the Porter Creek Trail. It's 4 miles long, 5.4 in the difficulty rating, so it's considered easy. The first mile of the Porter Creek Trail is actually an old gravel road, and it meanders through a lush forest and moss-covered trees and rocks as it follows along the banks of the Porter Creek. If you happen to have an opportunity to hike this trail during the spring, you'll likely be treated to an absolutely awesome display of yellow trillium near the trailhead. Roughly 2/3 of a mile from the trailhead, there are several old stone walls that appear on your right. These are remnants from an old farmstead that was settled in the Porter Creek community back in the early 1900s. Also on your right, just past the walls, is the Ownby Cemetery, which also dates back to the early part of the 20th century. Now, roughly 1 mile from the trailhead, after crossing over a footbridge, you're going to reach a fork in the road. The spur on the right leads to a historic farm site. A short hike of roughly 250 yards will take you to the John Messer farm site, which includes a cantilevered barn that was built by John Whaley around 1875. There's also a cabin on the site that was built by the Smoky Mountain Hiking Club in the mid-1930s. They used to sleep in it, or I should say they used to use it as sleeping facilities, but they abandoned it back in 1981. At roughly 2 miles, hikers are going to arrive at the 60-foot Fern Branch Falls, which drops off the ridge on the left-hand side of the trail. During high water flows, like after the rain, this is a fairly spectacular waterfall, and again, that's the Fern Branch Falls. The Porter Creek Trail is also an excellent choice when snow makes foot travel difficult in higher elevations, or when it forces the closure of roads throughout other parts of the park. It's easily accessible. As I said, this is not an overly difficult hike. 4 miles long, 5.4 difficulty rating. And again, that's the Porter's Creek Trail. Now, one of the neater hikes that I love to go on was Henwallow Falls. This was a fun hike, but as with all hikes, it depends on your abilities. I'm 57, I'm overweight, but I do love to hike. This hike is definitely moderate in difficulty. It's 4.4 miles long, 6.2 on the difficulty rating. There's tons of roots, lots of rocks. There's a very steep descent for the last 1/10 of a mile down to the falls. If it's raining, that descent down to the falls would be slick and treacherous. So if you have hiking poles, hiking boots, definitely recommended for this hike. This is not one to do in flip-flops or anything like that. Bring lots of water because you will work up a sweat on the uphill trek of this. Total hiking time to the falls for me was 1 hour and 18 minutes, but as I said, I'm not the fastest hiker. So if you're on the trail for 3 to 4 hours round trip, that estimate is probably spot on. And again, that's Henwallow Falls. The next hike I want to talk about is Ramsey Cascades. And I know I talked about this on a previous episode, but I want to talk about it again because, again, I want to hammer home that this is one of those hikes that you do not have to hike the entire thing. No matter where you turn around, it was still a spectacular hike. This area is just that beautiful. Ramsey Cascades is an 8-mile long hike. It's a 12.38 difficulty rating. What I want you to do is to be prepared and know what you're getting into when we start talking about this hike. The first 1.7 miles is essentially a pleasant nature trail. If you're not ready for a long hike, turn around here, head back to the car. This is where the old logging road ends, and it's at 1.7 miles, and it's beautiful up to that point. Now, from the sign at 1.7 miles to the first footbridge at 2.1 miles, the trail narrows, and the road is now gone, and the trail difficulty increases slightly. You're going to cross the second footbridge around 2.9 miles, and once crossing that bridge, then the difficulty starts to ratchet up to the next level. At this point, tree roots and rocks are much more abundant. Rock stairs pop up from time to time, which is nice. What is nice about this trail are the scattered level sections. It's not like a solid ascent. If you've ever hiked over at Baskin Creek Falls, it's just a relentless incline. This isn't like that. There are plenty of places on this hike to gain elevation, then it levels off and you get to catch your breath before you gain the next amount of elevation. During the 2.9 to the 3.5 mile stretch, you're going to hike away from the water and you're going to hike into the woods. Once you do that, it becomes absolutely silent in the woods. It's beautiful up there in the morning. You start hearing all the wildlife. You start hearing the birds. Don't worry about the bears and that kind of thing, but you start hearing all the birds in the trees. You really get an appreciation for the nature out there. Now, once you continue hiking, you're going to start hearing the water again. And when you hear that water again, you know you're getting close to the end. The final approach to the falls is going to include some climbing over some rather large boulders. But at this point, keep your eyes open and you're going to catch a glimpse of the falls to come. One last steep climb and you're there. And the falls at Ramsey Cascades are some of the best in the Smokies. This is definitely worth the effort. I encourage you, if you're going to hike Ramsey Cascades, start in the morning, have your lunch up there at the very top, and then start hiking out in the afternoon. It's a pretty challenging hike, as I said, 8 miles, 12.38 difficulty rating, but it is absolutely one of the hikes you don't want to miss in the Smokies. That's Ramsey Cascades. Now, the next hike, again, I talked about this one again on another previous episode, but this again is up in the Cosby area, and this is the Mount Camerer hike. The hike to Mount Camerer, it's about a 11-mile hike. From the trailhead, hikers are going to climb the Low Gap Trail for 3 miles before reaching the Appalachian Trail. During this part of the hike, the first 3 miles, this is a steep and relentless climb that traverses over several switchbacks. It's going to take you through beautiful and mature hardwood forests as you proceed up to the Cosby Creek Valley. At roughly 2.9 miles, you're going to finally reach the Appalachian Trail. When you do this, the worst part of the hike is behind you. But over that 2.9 miles, you have now gone up more than 2,000 feet. Along the early portions of the Appalachian Trail, you're going to continue climbing. However, the terrain isn't quite as steep as it was on the Low Gap Trail. At roughly 3.7 miles, the trail begins to level off and travel becomes much, much easier. You're now going to traverse along a ridge that offers decent views of the Cosby and the Tom Creek Valley through the trees. At just under 5 miles, you're going to reach a rugged spur trail that leads to the summit of Mount Cameron. The spur is roughly 0.6 of a mile long. It's fairly level, but it does involve some rock scrambling as you approach the fire lookout. Although the last 1/10 of a mile traverses some fairly rugged terrain, it's nothing that would be considered exceedingly difficult. Now finally you're going to reach the summit. You're going to be standing at an elevation of 4,928 feet. That's the summit of Mount Cameron. And it sits on an edge of a rocky outcropping overlooking the Pigeon River Gorge. On a clear day, the views are simply stunning. Some say this is the best view in the park is from up at Mount Cameron. There's an octagonal fire lookout atop the summit of Mount Cameron that was built by local laborers in the Civilian Conservation Corps back in the 1930s. That kind of is the cherry on the cake for everybody is when they reach the fire tower. Again, this is an 11.1 mile hike. It's got a 17.19 difficulty rating, so this is considered a strenuous hike. But again, for most hikers in the Smokies, this one is pretty much on everybody's bucket list, and that's Mount Cameron. Okay, so now we're in Cosby. We talked about all our hiking, and we talked about the different activities that we can do out there. Let's start talking about the food. There are several different places to go for breakfast in Cosby. Now keep in mind, Cosby is not Gatlinburg. This is a little more of a relaxed community out there, so you might want to set your standards accordingly. But Carver's Apple House Restaurant, home-style cooking, eggs, sausage, biscuits, and gravy, and pancakes. There's also Janice's Diner, which has omelets, pancakes, breakfast sandwiches, biscuits, and gravy. And Mama's Kitchen. Now, don't laugh. Yes, it's part of a gas station, but that just adds to its charm, doesn't it? They, again, have omelets, pancakes, eggs, sausage, biscuits, and gravy. And that's over at Mama's Kitchen. Now, lunch. I want to talk about this place. Doc's 321 Cafe and Market. They serve award-winning ribs and chili. They serve 5-star healthy meals from scratch in a family-friendly atmosphere that is so cool and so unforgettable because you will be eating in a modified 1980 school bus. Yes, you heard me correctly, a school bus. Now, before you look down your pancake pantry nose at this, they have soups, chili, panini, sandwiches. How about some Foggy Mountain stew, which is ground chuck sausage, garden veggies served up in a super secret brown gravy. It's seasonal, but get it if it's available. Or ask about the tie-dyed chicken. This sounds delicious also. Or how about some smoked apple or pecan pie, or maybe their chocolate cake with caramel icing. I love places like this. Unique, different, unbelievably original. That's Doc's 321 Cafe and Market in Cosby. Next up for lunch, if you're looking for something very casual, there is the Substation and Italian Restaurant. They have subs and sandwiches, pulled pork, meatballs, sausage and peppers, Italian combos, Philly cheesesteak. That's over at the Substation and Italian Restaurant. Now, if you're heading out to Cosby for dinner, they do have several different places to go there also. There's the Woodshed Restaurant. It's an American-style restaurant serving high-quality steaks, burgers, seafood. They offer hand-pulled pork, barbecue, smoked right on the property. The Thursday special is prime rib. The Friday special is barbecue ribs, but again, that's only while supplies last. Salads, steak, chicken, pasta dishes, all that's available at the Woodshed Restaurant. Now, over at Magnolia Tree, it's a family-owned and operated restaurant. Everything is made to order to ensure freshness. There's a wide variety of food choices on their menu that comes along in a great family-friendly atmosphere. Again, steaks, seafood, pasta, all of this in a casual setting, and that's at the Magnolia Tree. Now, heading back to the Substation and the Italian Restaurant, this is where the Italian restaurant part of this kicks in. For dinner, they have lasagna, baked ziti, spaghetti with meatballs, chicken parmesan, manicotti, many other selections, and that's at the Substation and Italian Restaurant. Then finally, Bean Trees Cafe. They're also open for lunch. I'm going to talk about them for lunch and dinner. And if you headed out on the Foothills Parkway East, this is over on that side of that area. This is off of I-40. It's over in Hartford, the Bean Trees Cafe, and I'm going to read for you their actual description that they put online to talk about the restaurant. The Bean Trees Cafe was born from 4 Hartford women who saw the need for a place where friends, old and new, could gather for a bite to eat, a cold beer, or a hot cup of joe. The original intention was to make a small coffee shop. However, between the love of cooking and the realization that this no-horse town was in need of something more, they decided to go big or go home. This leads us to what you are currently experiencing, a highly disorganized and chaotic mess that's an ongoing project. Now, that's right out of their website. I love how they put that about their restaurant, being a work in progress. They do have fresh food for carnivores and vegetarians. They offer riverside dining, organic coffee. It's casual. It's locally owned and operated. It's in downtown Hartford, the rafting community. They have burgers, paninis, sandwiches, all in a beautiful riverside location. And again, that's at Bean Trees Cafe. Well, that wraps up this episode. Hopefully you found this information useful. And if you did, if you could do me a big favor and leave us a positive review on Apple Podcast, or if you could just leave us a star rating on Apple Podcasts, that'd be great also. It helps other people be able to find this podcast a little bit easier. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for listening. As always, and as I close every episode, a fed bear is a dead bear. Please don't feed the bears. Thanks for listening. An Outsider's Guide to the Smoky Mountains was brought to you by Dancing Barefoot Cabin. If you're looking for a log cabin lodging experience beyond the ordinary, then Dancing Barefoot Cabin is for you. Conveniently located in between Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. Explore the possibilities at dancingbarefoot.com. That's dancingbarefoot, BEARFOOT.com. Pizza Bear illustration by Kenton Visser. Music by Jay Denton.